Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Dada's Show, coming to you from Best Western Hotel, Upper Hill here in Nairobi. I'm your host, Ashiko Mbune. Now, the Dada Show aspires to promote the spirit of sisterhood and solidarity amongst Kenyan women. And we do this by creating a safe and open platform for women of Kenya to discuss issues ascertaining to their lives, their careers, their health, their lifestyle, and anything that affects them in one way or another. Now, the children of this generation are growing up digital. Now, you may be sitting over there wondering, what do I mean by growing up digital? This means that the children of today, every single aspect and different aspects of their life are influenced by the fact that they're growing up in a technological generation. So gone are the days when a laptop or a phone or any form of technology was just for the older and the privileged. Nowadays, every single aspect of our life has been integrated with technology, even down to the most mundane daily tasks that we experience. Now, for us parents and guardians, we can sit back and complain about the big bad internet. I mean, of course, it has shown us majority of the evils that it can bring along. However, the internet is here to stay, and the sooner we embrace it, the better for all of us. But that said, it is important for us to be able to examine the impact that the internet and technology has on the lives of our young ones. We also need to understand what are the risks and what are the benefits of growing up in a technological time, as well as explore strategies that will be able to promote healthier digital habits amongst our children. So if you're sitting there nodding your head and thinking to myself, yeah, I need to control screen time, I need to do this, then this show is definitely for you. So I've invited industry experts who are going to join us, who will give us the take, who will give us the lowdown, who will give us they'll tell us all the techie terms and all the things that we need to catch up so we can protect our children. As always, I look forward to hearing from you. Be sure to reach out to me across all social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. You can also reach me directly at Ashiko, the host, across all social media platforms. Before we get into this very, very intriguing and engaging conversation that we're about to have, let's take a look at the following feature.
Well, parenting has never been easy, but the widespread adoption of smartphones and the rise of social media has introduced a new wrinkle to the challenges of parenthood. One of the most highly discussed and debated topics among parents today is, of course, screen time. But the question is, how much is too much? And what impact will screens have on children's development? Amid these growing questions, the World Health Organization issued guidelines last year on the amount of time young children should spend in front of screens. It is of course common knowledge that parents with young children are anxious about the effects of screen time. They are also apprehensive about the long-term effects of smartphones on the children's development. These worries come at a time when it is fairly common for children of all ages to engage, of course, in some way with digital devices. Despite the negative, embracing technology might not be such a bad thing if balance and discipline is practiced. And of course, psychologists agree that the challenges brought about by the digital age are enormous both for adults and children. For this reason, the psychology says children could be accessing harmful content right under their parents' noses. With that in mind, children in this era should not be blamed for what comes with being exposed to unregulated online content.
Welcome back. So if you're just joining us, our conversation today is raising children in the digital era. So, of course, we all have our concerns when it comes to the exposure that our children are having in the internet, on the phones, in school, and we want to know how can we better protect them. So, as mentioned, I am joined by a team of subject matter experts who are going to give us the whole lowdown. What are the benefits? What are the benefits? What are the risks involved? What do we need to do? What do they need to do? So, of course, joining me is Hilda Maritim. She's the Business Development Manager of Eve Minette Communication Solutions, a company that actually focuses on family IT consultation. Yeah. Thank you so much, Hilda, for joining us. And next to her, we have Pauline Mwikali. Now, of course, we have to look at the psychological point of view. What is the effect? What is the impact all this technology, gadgets and knickknacks are having on our children? So Pauline Mwikali is a child psychologist. Oh, karibu sana, Pauline. I cannot fail to acknowledge and welcome my wonderful audience who take time week in, week out to sit with me as we discuss contentious issues affecting Kenyans today. So asanteni sana for joining us today on Dada's show. Remember to keep us engaged on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 or reach me directly at Ashiko the host across all social media platforms. So I'm going to start off with you, Hilda. We've already talked technology, and we've said most of us parents, guardians, generation, we have fought technology, especially when it comes to how it interacts with our children tooth and nail. We feel like the best we should have to engage with laptops is using an Excel sheet. Yes. And that's about it. But because we have to embrace the reality of living in a technological age, what are some of the benefits and the risks that this presents to our children?
Thank you so much for having me today, Ashoka. So I'd like to first begin with the benefits of technology. As you have said, technology is up to until the mundane tasks. So for children and especially parents, I think technology has assisted to automate some of the things. For instance, before COVID, we wouldn't think of doing Zoom classes and digital classes.
We could not. That was the end of education.
Yeah, you thought then everyone was not going to study. But now after technology came, there's digital learning. Anywhere, anytime, a student can be able to learn. So then there's continuity of learning. I think that is one of the most important things. The other thing is basically technology has assisted us in research. Kids nowadays will tell you questions, especially CBC. They'll ask you to do things and you have no idea what that is. But once you go to tech and they just Google and they tell you, I saw this on TikTok, this is what can work for us. So I think for most times, research, information and education and creativity is one of the most important things that technology has brought, especially to this generation. And they are tech savvy. It is their space. We like to encourage them to just be in their space. If you take them out of that space, then you're taking them out of their natural environment to stay, so to say. So, and then the risks that come.
Just to interrupt you a little bit. By the way, I like what you have just said, and I want you to reiterate a little bit. You've said their natural environment. And I think for most of us, what we struggle with as a parent myself is technology, laptops, Wi-Fi, all of that was not ideally my natural environment. I did not grow up in that generation. I had Dada, I had dollies, I was playing outside 24/7. So of course, watching my 17-year-old son playing, being on his phone for 11 hours is driving me crazy. So I'm really sucking in these benefits, but please continue.
So one of the things that we like to encourage parents is this time let the child teach you, because there are different generations. Then most times you'll find out they actually do know more than you think. So let them guide you. Open communication with them so that they can be able to guide you. Some of the things you might not know, but just by speaking to them, you'll be able to understand, by the way, this is not my generation. I do not understand what is going on, but please help me. When you say this is going on, what does this mean? What does this mean? So just try to be in their environment. But then the risks that come with technology are, for instance, cyberbullying. There's the cases of inappropriate content. So sometimes you might give your child your phone, but they might experience adult content. They're just children. They are not able to handle, they will not be able to handle adult content. So true. You have to be very careful on what your child consumes online. The other thing is just media balance. Sometimes they'll be staying almost 8 hours, they lack sleep. They need to find a balance between how much time are they spending on their phones, how can you control how much time they're spending on your phones. So basically, those are some of the things that I would say parents are struggling with, especially now with technology.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Hilda. I mean, definitely we love the fact that the internet has exposed our children to collaborate with people from all over the world. So they have so much exposure. You know, we grew up, not to say that there's anything wrong with us, by the way. We grew up in a place where what we knew in our village is what we know in our village. But of course, when you hear that certain things are happening in certain places, of course, it's broadening their horizon. Now, speaking of broadening their horizon, Pauline, what from a psychological point of view, what impact does technology have on a growing mind? Because we are talking nowadays, you're seeing babies as small as, as small as 2 years old with a tablet. I mean, granted, they're not working on proposals, but they're playing games, but they have that access. So what kind of impact does it have on a growing mind?
Thank you so much, Ashiko. I think I'll start with the positive.
Yes.
Yeah. Media has come to support parenting in terms of if you want your child to learn a certain skill, you can leverage on technology to find that information. You can also identify their personalities. You observe something in your child and you can go together and identify with this kind of gifting, this looks like your personality. And you can even do career tests and things like that with technology. So it's assisting in parenting. However, there are caveats. Psychologists will tell you 0 to 3, you should not have technology for your child, because now you are affecting their memory. Their memory area of the brain, which is developing rapidly at that age, which tells you if this child is exposed to constant screen time, it means that they may not develop their learning abilities, and you'll start having attention deficit hyperactivity disorders. So you'll have a child who is not able to retain content or even settle down. So the light affects their brain at that time. It also blocks their ability to acquire language. So you'll see kids who've been exposed to media at that age, they have delayed speech development. So at that age, we really discourage gadgets and all that.
This is from 0 to 3 years.
0 to 3.
I hope people are taking notes. So 0 to 3 years, it's a no-no.
You're actually damaging your child's brain.
Okay.
You may save time, but you're delaying milestones. From 4 years to 7 years, now the child starts using gadgets for play. Psychologists will tell you maintain screen time to 2 hours a day at most.
Yeah.
And if they have to use it, then you also need to do to have supervision.
Yes.
And at this time, you can take advantage of games that trigger them to be critical thinkers.
Yes.
Things, if they want to learn a skill, 8 to 12, they're already now gaining media autonomy. So they may need to have a gadget around to do much of the work. But I've learned from the Silicon Valley parents like Steve Jobs and the late Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. They had a centralized gadget. Have a desktop computer or a laptop at a central place where you are able to supervise or see what the child is doing. All right? And still limit it to the given time.
Yes.
When we get now to the age of 12 and going to teenage, these kids are developing identity. So right now they are making social networks and they're getting a social family. I mean, they're networking. So you need to be keen. Who are they networking with?
Yes.
What are they watching? What is being sent to them?
Yeah.
Once they interact with the gadget, what is their demeanor? Are they depressed? Are there standards that are being set for them out there? So you need to be involved in that. So as far as impact is concerned, I don't know whether I can go ahead with that.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So you have good learning happening, but on the negative now, you have social isolation. You have children who are very lonely right now because they have friends, but they don't have friends. You have addiction. You have kids with withdrawal syndromes, similar to those of people who take drugs and who get into gambling. You try to withdraw that gadget and you'll see tantrums. Children are not growing in social and emotional intelligence anymore. So unless they all become IT gurus later in life, they'll not be able to converse it.
Yeah.
They'll never be able to solve societal issues. They have no interaction skills. And I also want to mention about sleep. There's a hormone your body produces for you to sleep. It's called melatonin. So if you engage with gadgets in the night, it means you will have disrupted sleep. It's only during sleep that your body rejuvenates and your brain forms extra networks. So if you have a child consuming TV through and through, you are affecting their brain, especially at childhood and at teenage. So if they read more, they have a stronger brain. If they talk and interact more, they have social skills. But if all they do is spend time on the gadgets,
then you're
you
definitely
have a problem.
You're preparing yourself for something down the road.
Yes.
Now, I like how you have outlined it from 0 to 3 to as we're proceeding with the ages. Yeah. Now, this could be the guideline, and of course, I am sure, and I have witnessed parents who are following that very faithfully. If we're talking about 2 hours a day, it's 2 hours a day. What is the content that you have, etc. But there are also parents who have been resistant to the change. And rightfully so. Nobody, you know, if you're removing somebody from your comfort zone, nobody's just going to change. Change is painful, you know. So how can parents go about, especially from a technological point of view, how can parents go about embracing the new reality, which is we are living in a technological, time, generation? Yeah.
I'd like to follow Pauline's guide, because that is what we also use for just having the talk with your kids.
Yes.
I said you encourage open communication, but then conversations will be different. Like you said, it is removing someone from their comfort zone. Some of them might be very hesitant to try and look into why I didn't need a phone. Why does my 2-year-old, 3-year-old, why do they need a phone? I think conversations are different, but one of the things is to embrace the fact that technology is here. It is here to stay. There are some things that are under my control. So for instance, if I'm giving my child a phone, I have to set clear expectations of how I expect them to behave with a phone. So first of all, I'm giving you a phone. Why do you need a phone? How will you use this phone? What is the responsibility towards this phone that I'm giving it to you? So these conversations are very different. They start from even kids who are younger, say, especially the kids that are beginning to identify and start to communicate with people.
Yes.
They will start asking, Mommy, when can I get a phone? Daddy, when can I get a phone? So you sit down and you encourage them. We encourage you to give your child a phone, because then you need to start having conversations with them.
Having the conversation, so it's not a hard no,
It's- yeah.
So that would be your approach to how, the parents can begin embracing.
Yes, because one way or the other, if this is the need of the child wants a phone. If I refuse my child to get a phone right now, they'll get a phone somewhere else. So the most important part is for you, for this child to see that I can come to my parent for this conversation, and this conversation will not be about mocking me. It will be a safe conversation for me to just give my views concerning why I need a phone. And we encourage this very, very much, because at the point where your kid will need you, especially with technology, you'll not understand it until it gets to a point where you're doing preventative measures against something. So for instance, if you are not having the conversation with your child, first of all, you'll have that conversation with a child, but in a different scenario, and it will be way worse than you're having it now. Okay, so for instance, if your child is accessing inappropriate content through another person's phone, you do not have this conversation with your child while you are giving them the phone. So then it becomes harder than it would have been if I had just told my child, this is what happens when it is online. I'm giving you a phone, but the technology around here, there's a lot, and not everyone is the same. Our values as a family are very different from values
of
outside.
family B, yes.
Yeah. So we encourage parents to give open communications in terms of technology. Don't give a hard no, but then try and communicate and explain why you're having difficulty giving this child a phone. Or I'm struggling because I noticed there's inappropriate content. I'm struggling because, for instance, I noticed there's cyberbullying.
Yeah.
So take them step by step into what you feel is what you're struggling with most. And each and every child is very different at every stage. So preteens are very different from teenagers.
Yes.
And then the young ones are very different. So the young ones may just ask for a phone, for instance, can I play games?
I play games?
Yes. The other ones, for instance, preteens will ask for a phone if they want to, I need to communicate with my friend. I need to be on social media because my friend is on social media. We need to communicate to them. Preteens above that will be, every stage of childhood is very different, so the conversations will be different, but we encourage that it be open and trustworthy. Don't give a hard no. Just don't give a no without giving an explanation.
I like that, and that's why I want to move on to Pauline. I like that. I like the fact that I think, like you said, family values are different. You see, there are certain families that have been able to stay, they're teenagers who've grown up without phones until, they finish school. There are those ones who've had since they're small. We cannot sit and say, okay, fine, then this is a blanket solution to everything. But I love what you have said, and I believe this even appeals to even the parents over there. Wherever you stand on this whole business of my child's access to internet and to technology, I think at the end of the day, it is important to keep the lines of communications open. It's important to say, yes, I am not going to buy you a phone until you get to ABCD age because of ABCD. And like we mentioned, and if you've ever watched this show before, we always keep on talking about this generation being a generation that has a voice, and they're very, very open to sharing their opinions. So they've not grown up in an environment where we were seen and not heard. And we were okay with that. But this generation is very vocal about it. They're very independent. They're very sensitive. They're very high, they also value their own mental health. But let me move on to you, psychologically speaking. How do we get our parents to change a mindset that has been there since God knows how long, but to a point of where now they're having the open conversations that Hilda has so well put? How do we get there as parents before we start talking about the children, as parents and guardians?
Yeah, I think like we mentioned earlier, COVID taught us we are not the only teachers.
Yes.
And school can shut down.
Yes.
And we have to have alternative learning platforms. And I think any parent who is not embracing technology is really derailing their child. So we have to teach how to use it appropriately. So I'll tell you, there are different kinds of parents. There's the authoritarian parent who will buy the gadgets and give very strict rules on when the gadgets will be used and all that. And of course the child will be creative enough to hide around.
To look for loopholes.
For loopholes to go around the rules.
Then
there's authoritative parent who now sits the child down and says, I know you can't do without technology in this day and age. You need it for your research. So I want to also protect you. So I've bought this laptop, but it will be staying at this particular point. All right? And anytime you need to do your research, I'll be there to guide, or the so-and-so will be there to supervise you. I'll encourage you not to take your gadgets to the room when you're going to sleep, because your friends might send you pornography, might send you things.
And you'll just not sleep. You'll just not sleep.
It will affect your sleep. So you're empowering the child to know how to use the gadgets, and you're also winning trust.
Correct.
Then there's permissive parents who now, they give you the gadget, but children will be children. You can have it anytime you want, and there's no control. Then there's an involved. You bought gadgets, you placed them there. You are not involved. You don't even know whether this kid is being recruited for things. I've sat with clients where the kids are sending nude images to people who have asked. Why? The parent is not involved and is not talking. Then we have the helicopter parent who now hovers around like a helicopter.
What are you doing?
What are you
Show
doing?
me that. Open that tab.
Yes.
What is that? Who is this person?
Who is this person? So now that creates mistrust in the house, because, and then there's the lawnmower parent who cleans up the whole system and makes sure everything is honky-dory. There's no trouble. My child will be in a clean, almost a convent situation, but that doesn't help. So I would ask parents to consider being authoritative. Let's have an open conversation. And when you get a child in a mess, discuss it, but then be there to supervise.
Especially, let me pick up from what you said, be there to supervise. So Hilda, and I'm loving this conversation, and I bet someone who's at home is thinking, okay, fine then. So I might have been a lawnmower, I might have been a helicopter. I've seen myself myself as a Shiko, I've seen myself, a little bit of me in almost all of them, you know? And so now the challenge is to me, and I'm taking it upon myself to see, okay, fine then, if these are the options, this is what has been laid out on the table, what kind of approach do I feel ties in with the values that I have for my family? Now, even that said, when you talked about, you know, monitoring and doing all of that, Hilda, what are some of the strategies that we can use, which we can actually explore to promote healthy digital habits?
Thank you. So I think, first of all, I'd encourage parents to actually take up a course. Or just take 5 minutes, be intentional and learn about online child safety. It is very important because you cannot guide your child if you do not know what you're guiding your child against.
Which is true, yeah.
So we try to encourage parents as much as possible. Please learn what online safety means for you. Because if, for instance, my child is going through online grooming, like Pauline has said, online grooming is when, for instance, your child is sending photos to someone who's probably, we don't even know where they are. If you do not know what that is, or you have never encountered that, then how will you empower and guide your child concerning that? So first of all, just learn the ropes of online safety. Take time, be intentional, and learn what online safety means for you. The other thing I'd encourage is to set up parental controls. Please, parental responsibility does not stop the minute you give your child a phone. You're still a parent to that child, and this child still depends on you, especially online, because you cannot just give your child the phone and just let go. There's a lot that can go wrong or that can go right online. But then your child still needs your guidance in terms of how they access content, how they navigate the content. Set up parental controls. For instance, if your child wants to watch a movie, if your child wants to play a game, take time. There's something called pre-screening. Look at exactly what content this movie has or what this game is about. Take time, sit down with your child, pre-screen together, look at it and say, by the way, this content, do you think it aligns with my values, yes or no? Then set it apart. For parental controls, there's a lot of parental controls that go around, even on social media. TikTok, for instance, has family pairing. Your child your teenage can connect, you can connect your own account to your teenager's account.
So about the TikTok pairing?
Yes. So first of all, I think you need to be very aware of if your child is putting in the wrong age, they'll access adult content. So first of all, please encourage them to put the appropriate age. But then TikTok, if your child is above 13 to 16, you can pair your account, your own personal account, to your child's account. So how it works is once you link both accounts, first of all, your child cannot go live. Yes, the other thing.
Your child cannot go live. There's some members of my audience who are not happy about this information being out there. So just very quickly, the child cannot go live.
Yes, you also control, for instance, the content that they watch. You can filter, you can look at who is commenting on their videos. So basically, you're controlling what your child is seeing, but still giving them a child experience on TikTok. So the kind of content that they'll interact with is not adult content. I'm going to say this because this is on national television. Please, don't let your child access adult content through you. Look into, for instance, for TikTok, there's family pairing. But also, if you do need to have your child on any platform, just go through the settings and privacy bit of every platform. There's settings and privacy in every part. Look at, does this make sense for me? Do I want them to be a public or a private account? Yes. Then you can control the information that comes there, including Gmail, Microsoft. Please.
At least I know that about Gmail. I know that about most sites. But of course, there are these new sites that have come up, and you look at everything, and everything is just confusing. But thank you so much. But there's something you started off, and I know it's a very broad topic. I mean, you guys have trainings on this. So I know it's a broad topic, and we cannot be able to sum it up in 25 minutes. But what we can be able to do is definitely encourage you at home. There's a statement that you used, and I want to share it with my audience and people at home. It is called being intentional. So if you're intentional, then none of these things, if you purpose, if you sit down and you purpose and say, you know what, I'm going to understand TikTok. I'm going to understand what happens in TikTok. I'm not just going to brush it off and say, you know what, in if it was our toto, in if it was they kind of, because there's so many things that are happening out there. So let's not adopt the head in the sand kind of approach all the time. Let's engage, let's interact with technology for the sake of our children. So we're going to take a very small break, and then we'll come back for the question and answer session. I hope everybody at home and in my audience is learning a thing or two. So I'll see you in a bit. Welcome back. So if you're just joining us, today's discussion is raising children in the digital era. And we've had such an engaging first session with our wonderful panelists, counseling psychologist Pauline Mukali, and of course our IT specialist, family IT specialist, Hilda Maritim. They've given us an insight on what we should do, what we should not do, and a way to adapt to what has become, what is our new normal. So we are at my favorite part of the show, which is a question and answer session, where I give my wonderful audience an opportunity to interact with the panel. So to start us off today, we'll start off with Linda. Linda has a question or a comment. Linda, karibu sana.
So thank you so much for allowing me to ask the question. And I am loving the discussion, but I do have a question for Pauline. And the question is, there's so many children that are on holiday right now, and the parents are working. So it may be a bit hard to regulate or restrict the internet, the technology that they're using. So what is your advice towards parents?
You know, parenting is not an easy job.
It is not.
So you have to have strategy. So you knew your child will be home for 2 months, so you should have hatched a strategy. And one is to scan your environment and see, are there opportunities where I can plug my child? For instance, churches and certain groups are running camps right now. So that's a secure environment where you can put your child through a program when you're working, at least for a week or so. Secondly, if you have to turn off that Wi-Fi or something, go for it. And restrict the gadgets to the time when you are home. Thirdly, have someone to stay in or to supervise your child. Or talk to a friend and see, is there somewhere where they can plug in for a small fee? You know, if it's in the slum, you can say, the guy who works at the carpentry shop, can I collude with him? This child can put in a few hours there and I pay 200 or 300 or 500. So people network with the environment. You can't raise that child all by yourself. So check out for opportunities.
Wow, I love that. And I love that. And then again, we go back to the word intentional. I believe if last year was any evidence that they will be home for 2 months, they are home for 2 months, and opportunities are all around. I love the fact that you said that churches are offering camps where they're taking the children for, the teens, preteens for like 3 days a week. So meaning that it gives you time and it gives you peace of mind knowing that that this child, this young person is not at home misbehaving, going on certain sites. So I think that is the onus to the parents about being intentional with how you're raising your children. Please, madam.
I think the other thing that would work is have family agreements. So you, like Pauline said, you knew that your kid was going to be home for 2 months. Sit down with them and have an agreement. You're not supposed to have a phone, for instance. Set times for tech-free zones.
Yes.
That's what we call them. So if you're playing outside, do you need your phone? You don't need your phone.
Yeah.
So you set down expectations of them and agreements.
Yeah.
Let them know what are the tech-free zones that you want them to have.
Yes.
For instance, if they're playing outside, their phones should be in the house. If you're having dinner, the phones should not be with them. For instance, if you're watching a movie, let the phones stay away. So set agreements with them, agree on how comfortable they are, how much time they need with their phones, how much time do they need outside, so that you at least find a balance. If they're having three, say if you have an agreement, let them know that, for instance, if 3 hours you're on your phone, 3 hours I want you to spend doing something else.
Yes.
So just sit down, have agreements with your children, let them know why that is important, and just set out your expectations for them in the 2 months. Let them know that if you cannot sleep with your phone, or your phone cannot be with you in bed. Those are some of the things that I'd encourage parents to do, especially now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can take advantage of the holiday and maybe enroll them for a unit in the area of their gifting. If they're good at the keyboard or they're good at soccer, you know, is there a place you can plug them in where you know at least some of the hours have been spent there? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Linda. The next question of the day is from Mr. Samuel. Mr. Samuel, karibu sana.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Samuel Otieno. My question is, what measures should parents take to ensure their children's devices are safe?
Okay.
Thank you. So some of the things that you can ensure your child's device is safe, or just basically online safety etiquette for your child, I think it first starts with open communication. Speak to your child, let them know why they need to be safe online, give them the highs and lows of being online. The other thing is to try and have parental controls on their phone. Look into how much screen time you want them on, how can you control what they are watching, filter their content. The other thing is to teach them pre-screening, so that they will be able to look into, for instance, what kind of content am I looking? Does this merge with the values that my parents have for me? The other thing we encourage is to just teach them how to be digital citizens. By this, I mean you try and encourage them to do unto others what they like done unto them. So let them know, for instance, if they find someone that is bullying someone online, encourage them to report. Let them know that if this were happening to them, they would not definitely like it. So why would they encourage that on someone else? Teach them how to report, because many times they'll feel unsafe online, but you'll not be there all the time. So you teach them how to report in case something happens. So teach them 116. 116 is the national child helpline. So
sorry, let's get that again. So the national
child helpline.
National Child Helpline,
Yes.
which is
116. Teach them the red flags. This is what we tell them, and red flags can be very different to everyone. Teach them what is a red flag, for what does a red flag mean, especially for parents. If you find that they're online and someone is asking for personal information, teach them what it means. If they feel unsafe, they have to report. Teach them where the report buttons are.
Yeah, Hilda, I'll do for you a follow-up. There's something you've mentioned that I'm curious about. What are some of just give me like 4 red flags. Because we like throwing around the term red flag. And so we can avoid, that those when someone will say, oh my God, you're being too much, you're being excess, I was just joking, what. Even when they're interacting amongst each other. What are some of the red flags that the kids should look out for? Because to me, everything is just going to be a red flag. Why are you talking to my child? Who are you?
Yeah.
But for the kids, what are some of the red flags they need to be looking out for, so that they can know that perhaps the person who's on the other end of this keyboard or touchpad or whatever does not have good intentions for me? Please.
Yeah. First of all, if the person you're speaking to, you do not know them.
Okay.
So a stranger, first of all, has to raise red flags to your child.
Yes.
So a stranger is basically just anyone that you do not know.
Okay.
The second, it's not a close friend. It's not someone that you met, for instance, in school, or is a relative to you.
Yeah.
So I think children should be able to know who a stranger is for them. The other thing, if this stranger starts asking for your location or private information.
Yeah, location,
So if they start asking for private information, for instance, give me your address, I have a gift for you, I need to drop it, tell me your address. So if they start seeing someone asking for, give me directions to your home, I need to deliver a gift to you, you definitely have to...
Red flag.
Yes,
a whole bouquet of it.
They have to look at it as a red flag. The other thing, if they notice that the behavior of this person does not look is not familiar to them. So we all know that sometimes you can speak to someone and you just feel like, "Ay, why is this person speaking to me like this? I do not understand it." So they'll start asking, for instance, for photos. Where does your mother work? Please share a photo of your mother. So some of them go through those means, but some of them can also be just speaking normally, but then they'll mention one thing that you feel is very uncomfortable for you. So once you start noticing that their communication is not consistent and it keeps changing, then that's a red flag. Yeah.
I like that. I think even in addition, I think even the kids need to trust themselves. You know, you guys need to trust yourselves. If it feels off to you, I mean, we all want to hope that we've been instilled with values that can help us be able to denote when there's something a little bit off with a situation. If someone is sounding a bit too, if they're offering, if something is sounding too good to be true, what kind of shoes do you like? Do you want, can I buy you a pair? You know, what? I think those are the moments. There's nothing in this life, young ones, there's no easy fix, and there's nothing that comes that easily. Everything has to be worked for. So thank you so much, Hilda, about that. Our next question or comment is from Azegelia.
Thank you for this opportunity. And my question for today is, how can a parent deal with a child who's excessively addicted to the internet?
Let me start with, let's not have addiction in the first place. So try and restrain screen time from your children. Remember, if your child is watching too much TV, they're actually deleting parts of their brains and connectivity, meaning they are passive and they'll never be able to achieve certain tasks. They'll lose something in their brain that might be very hard to achieve or to gain back later. Secondly, you will notice an addicted child, if you withdraw the gadget, there'll be tantrums, there'll be mood swings, and the child will be restless. All right? They'll almost be having withdrawals. And they'll be so helpless and restless that they will look for a gadget wherever they can find it to go. So that's addiction in itself. And so you need to talk. If the child is experiencing serious withdrawals where now they actually can't cope, I advocate for counseling.
Yes.
Whereby the counselor now helps the child to establish what the future looks like if they go on like that. Number two, there's something we call social learning. Where you withdraw the gadget and then plug this child to give back to society.
Okay.
All right? So you can encourage them to volunteer in a children's home whereby they're giving back to society and they're learning something. But I want to encourage parents, start early. If you have a 5-year-old, start early, start educating early. Sorry, let me mention this is very personal. I have preteens in my house, and we have an agreement. If you need to do your research, you'll use my laptop. If you need to talk to your friends, I'll avail my phone when I'm home. And I don't know how long this is going to stay, but we've agreed I'll buy you a phone when you're in campus or when you're joining campus. You have a landline there, rock yourself. All right? So far, so good. So I've noticed they get very bored when they don't have the gadgets. But it has helped me to see their creativity. So I'll see my son cutting off boxes, creating iPhones, because they are bored. Boredom brings about creativity. So as a parent, I see them conflicting and how they resolve conflicts. That's something I'll deny them if I give them gadgets throughout. I notice, kids who are so used to gadgets can't even read facial expressions. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So they don't know who is upset. They don't know how to identify faces because all they do is stick around gadgets. So encourage the child, withdraw it slowly, tell them the effect, and involve a counselor where possible. Otherwise, you are raising a child who will be so depressed because they cannot form relationships.
They can't be able to, because they formed a relationship with a gadget. And I think the other thing is, even when we're talking about gadgets and we're talking about this, even the consumption of what they're getting from what they're watching. And I love the way you talked about pre-screening some of this. And this is not to throw shade at any one particular show, but I believe there was a show, I don't know if anybody ever caught it. It's a movie where there's somebody who fell in love with their phone. I'm trying to remember what the name of the movie was. And this was a full-on relationship I had with a phone. And I kept on thinking to myself, what kind of content is that the kids would be consuming, especially at a time and age when they're so impressionable. Right now, as adults, we look at it and we think, yeah, that's gobbledygook. What is that? You know, it'll be like, that will never happen. But they were showing a whole thing. I'll remember the name, or maybe not, but whichever the case, this was somebody who actually started a relationship with the AI from the phone. They would conversate, they would talk about, and eventually the AI became very jealous, started stalking, and would start and I'm thinking a small impressionable preteen would think that that is possible. Maybe it would be in the future, but right now it's not. So I think when we are also curtailing the use of phones and the laptop and the internet, we also need to go back to something a little bit more traditional, including what they are actually watching. What is someone consuming? What is being stuck in their mind? So I think, thank you so much for touching on that, Pauline. So our final question of the day before we get some parting shots from our wonderful panelists is from Mzito.
My name's Elfas Mzito, and my questions goes straightly to the panelist. What do you think the government can regulate through Communication Authority of Kenya, the content in some of the social media platforms like YouTube and TikTok?
The Communications Authority and the government are doing, I think they're doing a good job trying to regulate what goes online, because they set up, there's an act called Cybersecurity and Crimes Act. That one is already there. So it is set to curtail what type of content goes online. The CA is doing his mandate. I do not, I think they're doing what they can, especially right now and the digital space that we are in. But I think by and large, the responsibility goes back to us. So if you do go back to any social media, there are community guidelines. If you read the community guidelines, they curtail some of the things, for instance, hate speech, cyberbullying. That's why there's a reporting button at every social media, because they know that there's the need for content moderation.
Wow. Thank you so much. Like you've heard, the buck stops with us, but keep reporting, because this is something that's very new for majority of us, even the powers that be. So what is happening is everybody's collecting data. So we're all collecting data there, and then eventually there's going to be a blueprint. So I think all of us need to play our role in this so that we can ensure years down the line that there will be laws, the same laws that are there when somebody is mugged, when somebody is assaulted in any way. So there will be laws when it comes to cybersecurity and cyber crimes. So Elfas, I hope your question has been answered. Okay, then we have come to the end of another very, very exciting episode, and very, very intriguing, very informative. I have thoroughly enjoyed the conversation we have had today. And I'm sure so many parents and guardians and teachers and grandmothers and aunties and all of us who are trying to adapt and keep up and catch up with this technological age have also appreciated. I'm sure the kids at home have also appreciated having a voice, letting people, having specialists, adults, grown-ups actually saying, you know what, this is their generation, this is how their generations roll. We had our Jerry calls, we had this is theirs. And of course, as we continue to explore, more strategies for our children, for our future, that is bound to be even more digital than it is today. So we better brace ourselves. I'm gonna give my panelists an opportunity to give us our parting shot before we call it a day. Start off with you, Hilda.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I think my parting shot would be for parents, please keep an open communication with your child. Keep a safe space where they can come to you in case they need to speak about issues, especially in terms of them navigating the online space. It is very important to have a space where a child can come to you and tell you, this is what is going on online, I need help. Because it encourages them to be digital citizens. Digital citizens means that then even if such a case happened anywhere and you're not there, they'll be able to handle anything that comes for them. The other thing also for parents is we need to learn to adapt to whatever changes that come. Every situation will be very different. I tell people that, for instance, if you find your child watching pornography, take that as a teachable moment. Please don't rebuke. Please take that as a teachable moment. Walk your child through what that means. And I also encourage them to just look at their value system. What does it mean? How can they include that in their spaces so that then the children can learn? Even when I'm online, these are the values that I need to maintain. Yeah, so I think that is basically my parting shot. And the other thing, please remember to keep reporting in case you notice that something is going on online. Just keep reporting.
Thank you so much, Hilda. You know, thank you so much. I don't even think anybody could have said it better. Pauline?
I like to say, Ashiko, technology has advanced, but the role of a parent hasn't changed.
True.
Ours is to nurture, to protect, and to empower our children. And let's be good models. If I'm giving screen time for my child and restricting it, when I get home, I need to model the same. Put down my gadgets and socialize with my child. And lastly, kids will walk. They will walk how you're walking. They will never walk your talk. They'll do, it's monkey see, monkey do. You may not learn more all the safety measures and put everything in place. You may not do that, but do your part. Do your part and plug your child to safe communities.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's enough said. There's nothing else I can add. So, of course, on behalf of my wonderful audience, my wonderful, very educated panel, and myself, Ashiko Mbone, my production team, the production team at KBC, our location partner, Best Western Hotel Upper Hill here in Nairobi. I wish you all a very informative, insightful, and very open week. So I'll catch you all same time, same place on Dada's show. Bye for now.